Hi, welcome to my channel. This is a DIY Z palette. You're going to need an X-Acto knife, pencil, Mod Podge, clear acrylic sealer, any hardcover book you'd like, paintbrush, a ruler which I forgot to photograph, oops, magnetic paper, and optional any decorative paper you would like. This will make a great Christmas gift and was really fun to do. So let's get started on making our Z palette. So first we need to take our book and we need to take our Mod Podge and paintbrush. We're going to glue 2 pages to the cover, the front cover, and I do this just because there's 2 pages that kind of are not with the rest of the pages, and this just helps it to open easier and to be more cohesive. So, and when you open your book, you can see this. You'll see some pages that are just not quite with the rest of the pages of the book, and they go more with the cover. So just glue these down to the cover. It also adds a little bit of strength for future use. So I'm going to continue adding glue and gluing these pages together. Like I said, there's going to be 2. Some people like to take their Mod Podge and put it on a plate or in a dish. I'm ghetto. I just dip right out of the jar, no hassle, no fuss, whatever. Get it as flat as you can. I even take a ruler and flatten it out and get the excess glue. It'll come out of the edges, and I just wipe it off with my finger and move on. So now that we have those pages glued to the front cover, we're now going to take all the rest of the pages and we're going to glue them together so that they're like one big solid mass. So I'm running glue along the side of the pages, and you also want to take that glue kind of down onto the cover of the book because you want them to stick to the cover of the book and just be solid like a Z palette, how it has that outer border. These pages are going to turn out to be that border. I'm saturating the pages and really getting them to stick to the cover of the book because I want it to really be solid and a good looking Z palette. If you get any on the top of the page, just wipe it off with your finger because it'll stick to the top cover, and we don't want that. So I went all the way around because you want to get the glue all the way around those pages. So I've hit all through 3 sides of those pages, and I've gotten the glue really saturated. Now I've set it there because I'm getting a box with some makeup in it, so it's a little weight. Putting it on top of the book so those pages dry together, solid, with no air bubbles or holes. And so I'm setting that aside. Now I have another book that I glued earlier, and I'm bringing that out. So it has one layer and it's dried. So now I'm adding a second layer. Now as you can see, the top cover kind of stuck to the bottom pages. But we're going to cover that up. We're going to Mod Podge it and make it look awesome and cool. So I'm not too worried about it. I don't want it to stick that much. But that's me right now putting a second layer and really getting it glued to the cover again and doing the same thing. The books that I found had really cool uneven pages, as you can see there. So what I'm showing you here is I just really had to get inside of those crevices to really get glue there and to really get it stuck down. But it's a cool effect. So I'm doing exactly what I did with the other layer, and I'm wiping off the glue off the top of the pages because I don't want them to stick to that top cover because that's when it's going to open. See the glue blotch on my desk? Yeah, I'm totally a slob when I do crafts. So I started off with nothing covering my desk, but you'll see eventually I covered my desk because I'm a mess. This next step is really going to depend upon your aesthetic and what you want your Z palette to look like, and also the size of your book. I took the sheet and I'm lining it up with the book to find out what size I want it to be and how big I want the border. It turned out that I wanted my magnetic sheet to be 15.5 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters, and this gave me a really nice border for my Z palette. But again, that's going to vary upon your book that you have and the aesthetic that you're going for. You may want a smaller border or a larger border. So this is really up to your opinion and what you're desiring. And this is a totally fun part. You get to watch me make lines and measure. I loved this part of the tutorial. Like, so fun. Oh, and surprise, there you get a sneak peek of me and my purple hair. You've already been staring at my one tattoo, my only tattoo, because I'm such a badass. I'm taking that magnetic rectangle that I just cut out and I'm placing it on the sheets that I glued together. And this is just going to give me a template for where I need to cut out the section where my magnetic sheet is eventually going to be stuck to, and be the base of the Z palette where you're going to put the eyeshadows or cheeks or whatever you may put in there. And the next portion I'm going to show you is how I'm going to make the cuts, because I do measure a little larger. This is me taking a craft ruler and I'm just making a little larger of a rectangle around the one that I just drew, because depending upon the sharpness of your X-Acto knife, if it's really sharp, you can just cut the rectangle you just drew. If it's a little duller, I found that you might want to make a larger rectangle just because it's not cutting as precisely. So that's what I'm doing right here. Now that I'm finished drawing the rectangle, this is my guideline for my cutting. So I'm taking my X-Acto knife and I'm just following the guideline. And I'm following the larger one because at this point my X-Acto knife was a little more dull because I had already used it on a Z palette before this that I had made, because I'm giving these as Christmas gifts, so yay. But so at this point it was dull, and I'm poor. I can't change my blade after each cut because no one's got money for that. So yeah, this one, the rectangle did have to be a little bit bigger. But as you see, when I'm done connecting those sides, try to connect them as much as you can. Like, get that X-Acto knife all the way into the corner, because this will just make it look neater when you're going to finish it up and put, you know, decorations on it. And then you just take that X-Acto knife and lift the page right up that you just cut. It'll just lift right out of there, and you keep doing this until you get to the depth you want. So I'm just showing you here, I've already taken out a few pages. I'm just showing you here, just keep going, following the framework that you've already laid down and cut. And you can see me, I really get into that corner. Like, I take that blade all the way into the corner to just get the nicest cut and the cleanest angles, so it looks really good. As you can see, I have a nice depth that I'm happy with. I actually took some eyeshadows from Makeup Geek as I was cutting out to just make sure I got a good depth. And I'm just measuring the top cover because I'm going to decorate that with a page. Also measuring the borders because I'm also going to cover those, and I just needed to see the minimum size it had to be. Options here with these decorative pages that I have from scrapbooking. I took 2 pages, I'm putting one on the top and one on the bottom. Now I'm just taking those measurements that I took previously from my book, and I'm measuring out the pages, the scrapbooking pages that I just got to fit. Now the reason why I say this is optional is those pages that you cut out of the middle and were lifting out with your knife, you can Mod Podge those back on to your Z palette instead of using like separate pages, and that looks really cool as well, and I have an example of one of those at the end of this. So this is a totally unnecessary clip, but I had to leave it in there because you can see my dog in the upper left hand corner, and I just think she's so cute. I just had to share her with the world. I'm putting glue all over the rectangle that I just cut out because this is going on the upper cover of my Z palette. I'm not putting it on my Z palette because I'm not perfect and I don't cut them to the perfect size, and I don't want glue hanging out of the edges. So this is just me putting it on there just with the brush. So once I'm done with that, getting glue all over it, I'm just getting my Z palette that I've cut out and I'm placing it on that top cover just to be a decorative piece. And yeah, I'm just lining it up and getting it as straight and as close to the edges as I can, and making sure it's straight and no air bubbles, and you know, just making sure it's aesthetically pleasing for whoever you're giving it to. And this is me just really working it on there and really getting it stuck in place. The width of my border and the depth that I went down into my Z palette, I figured that 3 centimeters was a big enough width to make my strips to go around the edge. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm just measuring 3 centimeters. And now I'm just cutting them out, and I'm just cutting them all the way up the page because I'm going to cut them to fit my Z palette next. I place the strips on my Z palette, and I'm just taking a pen and I'm marking where the edge ends, and I'm just going to cut them with that mark that I just made. The scrapbook pages I used were 12 inches by 12 inches, so I was able to cut out 12-inch strips that measured 3 centimeters wide, and I was able to get one long one for the long side of the Z palette and one short one out of each strip. Now I'm putting the glue on the actual border this time because I want the pages to stick together. And I really got the glue into the inside of those pages that I cut out because I want them to be solid, just like the outside that we glued down. And once I did that, now I'm sticking my little strip that I made to the top, and I'm taking my X-Acto knife, and I'm using the part that I cut out as a guide, and I'm cutting a little slit in my strip. And now I'm really just hugging it up close to that border and sticking it down, and I'm going to take a ruler and really help get it close into those pages so it's a snug, tight fit. Any edges that didn't get glue, I add glue now, and I stick them down so they stay. I'm going to repeat this all around my Z palette, taking my X-Acto knife and cutting little slits and gluing it down, just making it look really nice and snug. Now that I have that bottom layer glued on, I'm going to let it dry a little bit, and I'm going to go back to the top. I'm going to put a layer on the outside to really seal it in. This is going to make the palette wipeable, if you will, because everyone knows that, you know, makeup sometimes gets really dusty and dirty, and you need to be able to wipe it down at times where you're keeping it. Once I'm done sealing the top cover, I'm going to go down and I'm going to seal the bottom now that it's had a little time to dry. And this again just makes it wipeable and cleanable. Go in and I seal that bottom page so it dries hard. Sealing that bottom page, you know, that's actually part of the book, just makes a really good base for your magnetic sheet layer to lay on so that it's just really solid and secure. So I lost some footage, unfortunately, and since this is my first video, I was like, ugh, I just need to try to get this video out there. And what I lost isn't difficult, so let me just explain to you what I did. So before I laid down the magnetic strip, I went ahead and I sprayed my Z palette with clear acrylic sealer, and I did that twice. I let it dry 15 minutes in between each coat. Now you really want to let this dry for like quite a few days. It said even up to a week because it does stick, and if you close it, it'll become a sticky mess and your top will stick to the bottom part, and trust me, this is from experience. I had to redo one. It was nasty. After about a day though, you can lay down your magnetic sheet like I have there, and it's done. I think they turned out wonderfully, and I cannot wait to send these to my friends. I think they're going to love them. So Merry Christmas, and if you try this, tag me DIY Z palette.